There's an assumption being made right now about AI that I think is going to cause a lot of businesses problems. See, the assumption is pretty simple. If I take part of my business that is currently being done by people and I put an AI agent into it who can work faster, handle more volume, and operate almost continuously, then I've created leverage. And on the surface, that makes perfect sense. But I don't think that's actually how leverage works with AI. Because you can't put digital employees with almost limitless capacity into a business that was designed around the limitations of human labor and then expect that business to suddenly scale. Let me give you a really simple example. Imagine you have a sales team and you introduce an AI sales agent. Now, this agent can engage thousands of leads. They can follow up consistently. They don't forget to make a call. They don't decide that a lead probably isn't worth following up with. They can have hundreds or potentially thousands of conversations happening simultaneously. And because of that, they start producing significantly more opportunities. And that sounds fantastic, right? I mean, you've just created leverage, right? Well, maybe not, because what happens next? Let's say that before you introduce the AI sales agent, your sales process was designed around five human salespeople. Now, those five people could generate and manage a certain number of conversations. And over time, the rest of your business evolved around that level of output. Maybe they would collectively produce 50 qualified opportunities every week. Now, those opportunities would then be passed to another person or another team. And that team had the capacity to deal with roughly 50 opportunities. Everything worked because the capacity of one part of the organization broadly matched the capacity of the next. Now you introduce your AI sales agent. And instead of producing 50 qualified opportunities, they produce 500. What happens? What happens? You haven't necessarily created 10 times the leverage. You may have created 10 times the problem because the next stage of your process that was never designed to handle 500 opportunities. People become overwhelmed. Response times increase. Good opportunities sit untouched. Information gets lost. Managers start trying to work out where the bottleneck is. And eventually, somebody says, the AI isn't working for us. But the AI sales agent might, they might have been working perfectly. The problem is that you've inserted digital labor into an analog organizational structure. And I think this is one of the most important things that business owners need to understand about that next phase that's coming of artificial intelligence. For hundreds of years, we have designed businesses around the constraints of human labor. People can only work so many hours. People can only have so many conversations. People can only process so much information because they need breaks. They need sleep. They have competing priorities. So, our processes, our departments, our management structures, even our expectations about how work moves through our organizations, they've all developed around those constraints.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I wanted to make sure you knew that smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors, connects to the best-in-class real estate investing CRMs. And because, as it's my show and I am co-founder and chairman of Smartphone, I got some great deals for you. Click the link and take advantage of 5,000 minutes free calling with Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors. Click and call. Close more leads. Back to the show.
Suddenly, we're introducing a completely different form of labor. Digital employees don't necessarily share those same constraints. An AI agent might be able to monitor thousands of conversations simultaneously. They might be able to process information continuously, and they might be able to execute a responsibility at a scale that would previously have required an entire department. Now, that is extraordinary, but it also can create a problem. Because if one part of your organization suddenly has almost unlimited capacity, while everything around it still has limited capacity, you haven't really removed the constraint. You've only moved it. And that's the part I think so many people are missing in a lot of the conversations around AI. They're asking, where can we add an AI agent? I think they need to start asking, if I add an AI agent here, what happens to everything around them? Because real leverage doesn't come from making one task infinitely scalable. It comes from redesigning the system around that new capability. So, like, go back to our AI sales agent. If they can manage thousands of leads, perhaps the answer isn't simply to have them generate as many qualified opportunities as possible. Maybe you actually have to redesign the entire sales process. Maybe the agent owns more of the qualification process. Maybe they gather additional information before someone reaches out to a human. Maybe they identify intent, urgency, and opportunity. Maybe different types of opportunities take completely different paths through the organization. Perhaps only the opportunities that genuinely require human judgment get escalated to a person. And perhaps other AI agents take responsibility for additional parts of the process. Now we're doing something very different. We're not automating the old sales process. We're redesigning the sales process around the capabilities of a new kind of worker. And that's where I think the real leverage from AI is going to come from. Because if you look at your organization today, almost every process inside it contains assumptions about human capacity. How many calls someone can make, how many customers someone can manage, how many documents someone can review, or decisions someone can make, how much information someone can hold in their head. Now, those assumptions have shaped the architecture of your business. And now some of those assumptions are disappearing. So, simply dropping AI agents into the existing architecture, that's not enough. You have to reconsider the architecture itself. You have to look at how work moves through your business. You have to understand where responsibilities sit. And you have to understand what happens upstream and downstream when one part of the process suddenly becomes dramatically more capable. And then you have to decide where work should belong. What should remain human? What should become AI? Where should people and AI work together? And how does the entire organization need to change when the capacity of labor itself changes? That's the conversation I think business leaders need to be having about AI. Not simply what AI tools should we buy or what tasks can we automate. Instead, what would we build differently if we were designing this business today, knowing that part of our workforce could be digital? That's a much bigger question. And it's actually the question that led me to write my new book, The AI Workforce. Over the last couple of years, I've become increasingly convinced that we're approaching artificial intelligence from the wrong perspective. We're treating it primarily as software And I think we need to start thinking about it as labor. Because once you make that shift, the questions you ask about your business start to change. And the book introduced what I call the AI labor architecture framework. It's a practical methodology for examining how work actually happens inside your organization and then helping you redesign that work around shared labor between people and AI agents. It helps you look at your existing roles and your existing workflows, your responsibilities, your systems, the places where work gets handled from one part of the organization to another. And then start asking what those things should look like when AI agents become part of the workforce. Because I don't think the companies that get the greatest advantage from AI are going to be the companies with the most AI tools. They're going to be the companies that redesign themselves around what this new form of labor makes possible. Now, the AI workforce is launching soon. Now, if you'd like to be notified as soon as the book is available, I've put a link below where you can sign up. Because digital employees are coming into our businesses. The question isn't simply what can they do? The question is whether the businesses we're putting them into are actually designed to take advantage of what they can do.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.